you again. It is really a true honor to be presenting here today, and I look forward to sharing on practical business architecture. As we heard in the introduction, my base camp is business architecture, but I did want to share that my perspective is based on helping to many organizations for many years now, more than I'll say, to introduce business architecture into an organization, to grow it, and to really embed it into the fabric of an organization. And, part of at least my approach and one we've seen to be working for others is to frame things within a broader strategy execution. So the topic of making business architecture practical, usable, and valuable is certainly one near and dear to my heart. So I will try to keep the talk very brief and some time for questions. So we'll talk about what makes business architecture practical, why should we care, and where then could we go from here? So starting with what makes business architecture practical? And I think there are three key things. One is how we build the business architecture and how we use it. And there's an approach that's working very well for folks, and that is lead with value, build as you go. So really understanding what is the value proposition we're looking for, what are the top business usage scenarios, and then we build the business architecture just enough, just in time, as we need to support those business usage scenarios once we have the baseline of things like capabilities and value streams, which can be built fairly quickly today with some of the accelerators that are in place. So just enough, just in time, lead with value. Another thing that makes business architecture practical is how we present it and making it consumable. So I think what we're all after is, architecturally sound, but business friendly, because no matter how great the architecture may be, if it's not business friendly and consumable by people, and they don't want to use it, then it doesn't matter how good it is. So this is really, I think, our charge as business architects to make it consumable. And views or, veneers and overlays can be very helpful for that, as well as, always thinking about layers of an onion, presenting just enough and then going deeper and deeper. And also focusing on the business in business architecture. So always showing things in context, showing that heat map and those unique insights versus just, that capability map on its own. It's, when people see, new things being shared, then they focus less on, what is the structure that we're looking at. Finally, visuals, tools, our interactions really do matter, especially in this beautiful visual world that we live in. So again, back to our charge of trying to make things as visually interesting and attainable as possible. I think the last thing that makes business architecture practical is also the way that we show up. And some successful ways of working are, business-minded, value-driven, enterprise advocates really being, people that connect the dots and bridge builders, but also visualizers, storytellers, interactive co-creators, and being able to work in a very iterative and adaptive way. So again, I think a charge to, take stock of this amazing world that we're all creating and the ways we work today, and just making sure that that the ways we work do fit in with that. So that's a few points on making business architecture practical. Now, why should we care about all this? If I'm an architect, why care about design? I'm maybe helping to, migrate to the cloud, or working on resolving an enterprise, challenge. Why do I care about customer experience? Or if I'm a designer, why care about architecture? Maybe I'm designing a hospital for the best possible patient experience and care. Why do I care about the architecture? And I think the truth is we're two beautiful sides of the same coin. So I'll give a true story here, a very brief case study about when the inside out impacts the outside in. And again, two sides of a coin. So this example here is an enterprise-wide customer communications transformation. It looked at every single written communication the organization sent out, so millions and millions and millions. And it was underpinned by the desire to shift from product-centric to customer-centric overall. So how this transformation actually started for real, it's a great story, is one of the leaders on the board took a ream of paper, so about this thick, and dropped it on the desk of another executive and said, "I've been collecting all the mail that our company has been sending us over the last year. I'm our best customer. I have all our products, and this is unacceptable. Why are we sending so much paper? These documents look archaic. They look last century, and why are we sending so many? And when I moved last year, why am I still getting mail to that other house I used to live in?" And so that is what kicked this off. And I'll talk just a tiny bit about how we did the research, but the key point is what was creating that customer experience was a very dysfunctional internal environment. And so when we looked at what was happening, essentially every business unit, every product area, and other business units like marketing were a mini communication factory. They had their own people and processes and different templates for communications. So a bill looked different for this product than a bill for another product. And the systems behind it, the technology, in many cases manual or hard-coded sort of technology, and very few reusable solutions. And so the big realization, and I mean, this is literally the message that the top executives across business units of this company saw and embraced, is the ability to deliver an exceptional and consistent customer experience is dependent on the inside out, right? And how the organization is actually doing there. And on top of that, the ability to be agile as an organization and be able to continually adapt to change is also dependent on the hopefully simplifying the environment. So that's the situation. And in this transformation, we needed all enterprise design facets, all hands on deck across all disciplines. I'll speak about experience in architecture on the next slide, but also identity played a role here as well, because it was even back to the how do we want to show up for customers, and what are the principles we want to set for ourselves, and how we want this experience to be, not just for customer communications, but really for any touch of the customer. And so I'll focus in on the experience and the architecture piece here. So when we found those challenges that you saw a couple slides ago, let's just focus on the question of why are customers receiving so many documents in the mail and at different addresses. And the first place we started was the customer experience, right? And in a case like this, communications are coming out from everywhere. So absolutely, every stage of the life cycle was impacted. So, now we're going to move from the experience into the architecture to try to understand what's going on. And we followed that through to the value streams, right, which are sort of our bridge then into the architecture, into the business architecture. And as we looked at those value streams, there were similar problematic capabilities happening across them. Just going to give a few here. It was a more complex situation, but customer preference management. So there was challenges with capturing preferences, with being able to access preferences, and being able to honor preferences. At the time, this organization was not even fully equipped to deliver all communications electronically. Agreement customer matching, which in human speak means, we did not always know when a customer that we were dealing with in one of our product lines had other, products in the company. So we didn't always know that. So that dovetails to to this one here about customer information management, which is if I moved and changed my address and maybe I called into one product area, well, they didn't know to update the other product areas and information wasn't shared. So you can start to see some of the situation here. And then with that capability as our Rosetta Stone, we can then go to our knowledge base, and you see I've sort of dreamed what I would love this to be like for practical business architecture if we could only just have sort of a touch screen, right, for our knowledge base. So tell me what's behind customer information management, and then I can see, everything from who are all the business units involved to what are other, strategies and initiatives going on to, what are the systems applications and the processes happening. So it was in this view that we realized, wow, look at all the business units that are doing similar things, and look at all the, the system applications that are doing similar things. So the punchline on this case study is the executive group of leaders. So they were actually the executives across business units involved with customer experience. They decided to address this comprehensively, and ended up being, some more centralized center of excellence about communication design with, experts that work there, and more centralized systems. It was a big change. You can imagine that, but just a little bit of how we work together across the enterprise design stack. So now just a bit of reflection on what are the benefits of business architecture for designers, right? Let's take customer experience design as an example. And business architecture can help to improve the experience, help us to understand and resolve issues more quickly, completely, and methodically. So, thinking back to that last slide, if we have a challenge in, one stage of the journey, we can follow that through in a very focused way to what's happening internally and look into it more. And it's not that there's anything wrong with, let's get the smart people in the room, but if we can do that analysis and, make sure that we get everybody to the table and uncover all of the root causes, maybe not just some of them, we can really, solve the problem better and provide the best experience possible. Also, to evolve experience. So when we want to evolve customer experiences, business architecture can tell us what capabilities do we have in place already and how well are they working? Is that feasible? Also, performing rapid what if impact analysis, right? So what if we did this? What would that butterfly effect be across the organization? Or what if we did this? What would that effect be? And of course, helping us to understand the magnitude of change to customers, and not just by the specific change we might be making in one experience, but also looking across the enterprise. And are we doing other things? Are we doing other initiatives that might be impacting this group of customers at the same time? And if we do, how do we need to resolve that? Business architecture can help make changes to the experience, and here's where the tie comes in with strategy execution. So business architecture is a key piece to help us translate ideas and shape them into actionable initiatives, which are harmonized with other priorities. And finally, as far as just stewarding great customer experience, business architecture can build that thinking and mindset and those checks into the fabric of the organization and make it a priority. So, for example, as part of our initiative processes, as we make decisions, if one of the customer facing capabilities are impacted, we can put in special checks and again, go back and check the butterfly effect. Is that actually going to impact the customer experience if someone is making any sort of a change to those types of capabilities? So a little bit of, where do we go from here? Let's leverage the power of our intersections. Continuing to go from curiosity to partnership, learning about other disciplines and roles, and being very intentional about building relationships, bringing others to the table, and finding ways to work together. And I mean, any organization I go to, if they don't have customer experience design, I'm right there recommending it, because we need all these facets in here. So, bringing each other to the table, being deliberate, formalizing how we work together over time, and even as individuals, expanding and blending our practice. I was so lucky to be able to go to the base camp this week and learned such great new techniques from a really incredible group of people. So I'll be blending my practice a little bit more as well. And these things here, I think, are true if you put yourself in the context of your own organization, and also when we think about ourselves, in this global community and each of our disciplines. And continuing to advance from, caring individually to advocating collectively. So joining forces, within our organizations, right? With all our enterprise design teammates. And again, as well as a global community, I think that we can do so much more together collectively to help shape and tell the story about enterprise design. And I also think it's valuable to frame it within the broader business context and value. And, from my own experiences trying to socialize business architecture, one thing I have really learned is it doesn't work to socialize the architecture, but when you help people understand the why, or the bigger reason, the value that it's going to bring, people catch on to a vision, and then they see that enterprise business design is part of that. And I also think it's good to reflect that we're here together as enterprise design, but there's an even bigger picture. Again, I frame within strategy execution that may or may not resonate with you. But, we fit into these pictures too. So building bridges with, strategy teams and innovation teams and risk and compliance and planning and organizational, development and change management, and so on and so on. So we have even more intersections, and building a vision of where we all want to go together. I think it puts all of our disciplines in that context. So just to summarize then, business architects, I think our challenge and charge is to make business architecture practical. And designers, I think our challenge is to use the business architecture and to inform it and help make it better and complete and more usable the way we need. Because, why care about business architecture? Why care about design? Because we're two sides of the same coin. And I think ultimately, why care? Because we care about our organizations and our societies. And we believe in enterprise design, as a way to help them innovate, transform, and, effectively operate, and hopefully build a future world that we all are very excited about. So with that, that's all I have. So we have a few minutes for questions.
That is fantastic, Whynde. Thank you. There we go. This is really, really nice. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
You bet. You bet.
I'm going to jump right into the first question coming from Milan, who's saying, every department communicating to justify their existence to the same audience is an anti-pattern that we see a lot. What's the remedy?
Yeah. Well, so I can take this in different contexts. I think that this is why organizational direction is tremendously important. So let me just kind of talk organizational level, and then maybe I'll talk enterprise design level. This is why I think a cohesive golden thread of strategy into, enterprise design, into initiatives is important, and all the direction can fit within that and be harmonized, right? That's part of what we're aligning. And I think I have, seen as working as a change agent for many years, people will rally when they have something bigger than themselves. And something like that customer transformation I talked about got people to rally and step out of their own, here's my purpose, here's my value. Even here's the way I like to make decisions, and here's my budget. It's like we're aiming towards something bigger. And I feel a similar way for enterprise design, which is why I am so inspired to be here. And I love this idea of the intersections and the people I've met here this week, because I think what we're really after is trying to make a bigger change than, that transcends all of us. I know just from having socialized so much that it's hard to pick that one thing, because you can use enterprise design for so many different values. So at least from my own experiences, it's always been finding the right hook, strategy, execution, or otherwise, because that certainly does not always work. And then we try to rally around it together. So food for thought.
Very nice. And another food for thought is Anna, who's commenting that she remembers that a client faced with a big pile of paper, like the one you shared in your story, sarcastically saying Bob Dylan went electric in 1965. We're all lagging behind, right? I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Raj has a question for you as well.
Perfect.
Would you address communication problem as a single use case, solve that, and then move on to the next one? Or would you look at multiple problems which might share the same capabilities to address multiple problems at the same time? Big one.
Brilliant question. And I really appreciate it. So if we think about our organization's enterprise transforming at a level, I love that question. Here's a really practical answer. One problem, multiple problems, honestly, it a little bit depends on how the situation gets teed up. Ours was, here's the ream of paper, we are fixing this. Someone might come at it like, we have this problem with preferences and it's causing all these issues. It could be either, but I think you will naturally find your way, especially as you succeed and show value, you'll find your way to the other things. And now the rest of that story actually is, there were other enterprise business transformations, and it's just too big to eat that whole elephant. So this was communications, there was preferences, there was money movement, right? There were other things, and then those were actually integrating. So brilliant question.
Yeah. And inconclusive is great, because we have more time to dive further into this, because we are surrounded by a tremendous amount of intelligence in this hive mind of enterprise designers. So Whynde, thank you so much for engaging with us and sharing your experience with us. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Excellent. My pleasure and honor. Thank you.